Agencies Drinking Beer is brought to you by Proposify, software that helps you deliver beautiful proposals in the cloud and close more deals.
Welcome to the 48th episode of Agencies Drinking Beer. This is part 2 of a 2-part episode with Paul Boag, a web design author and speaker from the UK. This week, we're chatting with him about why he left his agency business and his definition of success. Well, hello, Kevin.
Hello again.
Welcome back.
Did you miss me?
I did.
Yeah.
Tell the listeners where you just came from.
I was at the APMP PartnerCon event in Boston.
What does APMP stand for?
Well, funny you ask.
Why are we talking like this?
The Association of Proposal Management Professionals.
That sounds so interesting.
Oh, it was amazing. Lots of pocket protectors, and it was fantastic.
Oh, now you're just making fun of everybody you met.
No. But, I had a lot of flashbacks to the agency world back when we were responding to RFPs, because most of the poor bastards there had to respond to RFPs.
Pity the fools.
But met some great people, and being a little serious here. I mean, let's face it. I mean, it's a necessary evil, and everyone there was looking for better ways to do it. There was some great. I wouldn't even call them competitors, just some fantastic companies that were doing some interesting things around helping people with RFPs. And there's such a need for that.
It's amazing though, because responding to RFPs and writing proposals, as we all know, is a huge pain. That's kind of why we built software for it. But it just seems like an odd thing to have a conference over. It'd be like, I could understand that you having the circuses in town, but do you really need like a conference for the people who shovel the animal shit outside the circus tents? Like, would you really build a conference around the job that is not glorious and
what's wrong
everyone
with the
hates?
Association of I won't say it.
Of tiny horse manure
Something
shovelers.
Like, yeah. I was going to think of something different, but yeah.
That's what it feels like to me.
No, actually, it was. They've been around a long time. They have thousands and thousands of members worldwide. There are a lot of people out there that have consultancies that help people with proposal content. I mean, if you think about some of these Fortune 500 companies, I met a guy from NASA that was there.
Nassau, Bahamas?
NASA, not Nassau.
Oh, NASA, not Nassau.
Yeah.
Okay.
And all points in between.
Does NASA respond to proposal, like RFPs?
They do for procurement, yeah, when they need parts for, say, a spaceship or whatever they're doing. I mean, they go out, and they also, they probably send out more RFPs than responding to them themselves, but they do respond to RFPs.
So somebody puts a tender out there and NASA responds. How do you not pick NASA?
Good question.
Plus, they're government funded completely, aren't they? They're not private.
Right, but let's say I'm NASA and I want to build a rocket ship to go to Mars. I need parts. Sometimes I need to hire out consultants. So they need to find the right consultants, because RFPs aren't just government, as you know. There are large organizations that go to RFP.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So you learned a lot there.
Learned a lot, and
you learned some proposal lingo, I hear.
Yeah, it was interesting because they were coming up. A lot of people came up to me, and once I told them what we were about and our value proposition, they said, "Oh yeah, you're a proactive." Yeah, you're proactive. And several people say, "Oh yeah, there's the proactive app," and
that's weird.
There's a lot of terminology. I didn't go to the classes. They had courses on proposal certification for different levels. I know. Tell me about it. And but there's a lot of lingo around it, things I didn't even know. But hey, I think of proactive as being a positive thing.
Who doesn't want to be proactive?
But let's face it, when you're responding, the word responding to an RFP, you're reactive.
Yeah.
So most of the software that was there was in response to being reactive and helping them sift through the hundreds of pages of a crazy RFP. And as I always say, those procurement officers are the same ones that procure for chairs as they do technology a lot of times. And
right.
And a lot of them did say there's just a lot of waste in those documents. So a lot of these consultants help them sift through all the jargon and the BS and get to the essence of what is in there and help them, write it a certain way to try to win the project.
Yeah. We talked about that a lot last week too, about government RFPs and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it doesn't sound like the most interesting show, but it was cool. You got to go and you got to be like the cool kid and win with a bunch of nerds.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, our new designer, he got a lot of compliments on our booth and on our brand and our new hats I gave out.
Steve just started a few weeks, well, almost a month now, isn't it?
Yeah. Very talented designer, very talented, and it showed. People were complimenting him quite a bit.
And he designed this slick little, we bought an iPad specifically for the show, and he designed this slick little presentation with a form, like a lead gen form, and nobody used it, did they?
No, because in their pocket protectors, they had pens, and they really wanted to use their branded pens.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I was given a lot of pens.
And I remember when I don't know, you know this audience so well, because before you left, you said you were just going to put a bowl out and get people to drop their business cards off, and everybody was like, "No, don't do that. That's old school."
And I didn't have a bowl the first night, and people were like, "Where do I put my cards?" And I said, "Well, do you want to look at this present?" No. I want to give you my card and set me up for a trial.
Wow,
that's just the way it is, man.
Man,
cards are still alive.
Set your clock back. We're going to the proposal conference in Boston.
Yes.
Did you get any of your Boston accent back?
One night I was with a bunch of folks there that were from the area. We went out and had a few drinks, and I could feel it coming out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you take a look in the mirror?
The mirror, yes.
Mirror.
Yep.
Did you pack a car?
Only on Harvard Yard.
Nice. We'll have to go back there. Well, we were going to talk about something. Let's push the topic at hand to the next show. And let's get right into this interview, because I had the great pleasure, we both did, but this was a long time coming for me. Always wanted to get Paul Boag on the show. Great podcaster and web design author and speaker. In case you missed last week's show, he talked with us mainly around kind of how he's built his personal brand around in the web design user experience business, and some of the notable guests he's had on his show and started the podcast. So if you haven't listened to that, definitely go back to last week and check out that show. But then we sort of changed gears during the conversation and talked a little bit more about his agency that he started called Headscape. And about a year ago, I think he left Headscape. He was one of the founders, and he just kind of wanted to go and on his own and do his own thing and kind of be a freelance consultant. And so we kind of talked about that and why he left, some of the struggles they had running their agency, which are quite universal, and what how he defines success now. So it's a really good part 2 of the interview, and let's just get into it. Let's go into this next interview with Paul Boag. Okay, I mean, when you talked about, for example, Andy Clark, this kind of leads into another point, which is you talked about Andy Clark has the same challenges anybody else does running a small agency.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I assume you have, because you seem to read everything. Oliver Lindenberg from .NET or Net Magazine published a post on Medium called "The Death of the Web Design Agency."
Yeah.
You've seen that.
Yeah.
I'm very curious, because you've run an agency successfully for many years, Headscape, just any thoughts on that article in terms of how true that is are web design agencies essentially dying?
It's interesting. I wrote an article for Creative Block at the end of 2015, or was it 14? I can't remember. One of these end of year wrap up things that they ask you to do. And I wrote exactly the same article, basically. Okay, this is how I see it. It's not the debt. You see, the trouble is, the reason my article didn't take off as much as this other one is because I didn't give it such a pretentiously, stupid, clickbaity subject line, headline. This is the scenario as I see it. At the bottom end of the market, okay, there are loads of small web design agencies that are doing little WordPress sites, that kind of thing. Now, at that end of the market, they're getting squeezed. They're getting squeezed by a lot of people going, well, do I need a website at all, or can I just have a Facebook page? Or alternatively, they're getting squeezed by the Squarespaces and the Grid and all of these kind of build your own website tools. All right. So they're being forced up the market. All right. So they're being forced to look for bigger clients with a bit more budget that are willing to invest in this kind of thing. Meanwhile, at the very top end of the market, you've got larger organizations, the kinds of clients that I work with, who are essentially going, well, hang on a minute. Digital is become business critical to our operation. All right. It now is coming to the point where it needs to be integrated into every level of our organization and our operations in order to succeed. Therefore, we cannot continue just to outsource this, in periodic redesigns to an agency anymore. And we're going to start building our own in-house teams. All right. So that's reducing the amount of work that's happening at the top end of the market. And what it's doing is that it's forcing those people at the top end, people like my agency Headscape that I worked with for years, down into the middle of the market. So the middle of the market is now becoming really crowded. Okay. Now, the inevitable fallout of that is that you will. It's basic supply and demand, and that you will see some agencies folding and disappearing because of the squeeze that's happening at the middle of the market. But that doesn't mean that agencies are going to go away. It just means that some agencies are going to go away. The less good agencies are going to go away as things become more competitive. Now, there is also an element that agencies are going to need to adapt and change. So, for example, I was at a founders conference recently, speaking at a founders conference, and there were lots of agencies of different sizes there. And there are an increasing number of agencies, those that operate at the top end of the market, that are essentially beginning to operate as in-house teams for organizations, right? So they're operating almost on a retainer basis where they're embedded within the company. So a bit like Adaptive Path got bought by Citibank, didn't they, to become an in-house agency, but in this case, still maintaining their independence, which is quite a good move for some larger organizations, because they've got so much culture, so much bureaucracy, so much politics, so many things that would prevent them from effectively building their own in-house team, that actually using an external agency to act as their in-house team might be the right solution for them, at least for a while.
So I probably retain talent more, I would think, as well, because it's not like Facebook buying T and Lax and just taking the employees they want and just sort of stripping the whole organization. Yeah,
you still keep the integrity of the organization there. So essentially, I think we're going through a transition period where we will see a significant reduction in the number of agencies out there. We will see a change in how they deliver their products. You'll see a lot of agencies, filling specialist requirements for certain skill sets that people can't justify having in-house within the organization. And you will also see, but there's always going to be a need to have agencies to provide extra capacity. Even, pretty much every one of Headscape's clients have got an internal development team, but it's not big enough to be able to do all the work that they want to be able to do within the organization, or to take on any particularly, new projects, etc., that they want to undertake. So they have to get outside help. So the agencies aren't going to go away.
Yeah. And it seems like the ones you talked about, the shittier ones going away, which, I think, Kevin, you've always referred to that as like a hurricane. The strong trees survive during the downturn in an economy or, an industry being disrupted. And would you say that the agencies that will survive are going to be more specialized in some way?
I think some will go that route. And I think others won't. But yeah, I do think there will be more specialisms. But the other potential kind of wrinkle in this mix is people like me. That now I've gone independent as a consultant, so I haven't got an agency. But I can easily go into an organization and I can work out what they want, and I can draw together a team of specialists that can deliver on that particular project without having all the overheads of a continual, an office and and ongoing salaries and all of the gubbins that go with an agency. So these more kind of ad hoc teams coming together, I think are a potential danger for agencies as well. But again, sometimes people just want to deal with one company. They just want to know that that's, they're going to deal with everything, that it's, one team that's used to working together. So agencies aren't going anywhere.
I mean, the traditional path of most agency owners that I know of anyway, and myself included, is you kind of start freelance as a web designer or a developer or a marketer or somebody, and then you gradually hire employees or get a partner to help you grow the business. And you've recently, as you just alluded to, left Headscape, which you founded, co-founded, and are now an independent. What, I guess, sort of triggered that, and how has that transition been?
Yeah. Okay. There are a couple of aspects to that decision to trigger it. Do you remember I said that I always wanted a lifestyle business? I always wanted a business that facilitated the life that I wanted to lead. And for a very long time, that was Headscape. And then some things happened in my personal life. We started homeschooling our son. There were various other things that suddenly meant that Headscape was then becoming a restriction for me. So that was one element to it. The other element is, like any agency, you go through peaks and troughs of, the business is going really well and then it's not going so well, and you go through these cycles all the time. And after 13 years, that cycle of feast and famine was taking its toll on me, because I was primarily the marketing, sales driven element of the company. I was the figurehead of the company. I felt this pressure to feed my staff, and you do become, once you have staff, you become very parental towards them. And it was knackering me doing that. We went through a particularly bad, probably 6 months at the end of 2014, which I found really exhausting. And we got to the point where it was like, we're going to need to lay off staff. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't face doing that again. And I say again, it was actually the first time we ever had to do it with Headscape, but I've done it before in previous companies, and it is ugly and it's horrible and I hate doing it. So I thought, well, I'll lay myself off. So essentially that was the route that we took. I'm still a non-executive at Headscape. So I'm still involved with the company. I have a small shareholding in the company still. I still work on projects with them. They just don't pay me any money anymore. And it's been absolutely brilliant, and it's really great. And actually, the company took off again once I went. And Chris, one of my co-founders, said to me, "We've had the best year ever since you've left," which is like, thanks, Chris.
You've been holding it back all these years.
Yeah, I've been holding them back. So they've actually flown over the last year, which is great because their overheads have gone down. One of their founders that was, took significant salary and dividend out of the company, he's gone. So it means that they can be more, more agile, more cost effective, and it's really worked for them. So it was great for them. And then for me, it's been really good because I've gone from having to feed, anywhere between 13 and 20 people with work every month, just having to find enough work for me. So it's been a lot of that kind of anxiety that goes with running your own business has kind of disappeared for me. And I can work when I want to and not when I don't want to. And it's much more flexible and supports the lifestyle that I've wanted. So it's been a really good move. But I'll tell you the biggest thing, that it's made me ask what success is, because for a lot of agency owners or a lot of entrepreneurs, it's about building something big, right? And it's, we kind of measure our success. It was like when I was at that founders conference recently, the first question you ask is, so, how many people work at your agency? As if this is some kind of way of judging who's doing it right and who's doing it wrong, And so giving up having an agency of X number of people and just going by myself, in some ways felt weirdly like failure, but really wasn't. It just depends on how you define success. And I think that's an important thing we all need to be better at, is clearly defining what success looks like for us.
That's right. I mean, you see that a lot in the startup world, especially with software startups, where, a company is judged by how much money it raises, how many employees it has, how quickly they get acquired and all that kind of stuff. And it's for at least a while, I think it's coming back into fashion, but the sort of Basecamp style bootstrap company acquires customers somewhat organically, just kind of grows slow and steady. But the founders and the staff live amazing lifestyles, make good money, aren't stressed about cash. I mean, I think that can come, it's not just startups, it's also in the agency world as well, is how stressed are you? The more stressed, the less successful, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's what it came down for me. It was, success for me was can I live the lifestyle that I want to live? And an agency or any business can very quickly turn it into a monster that you have to feed. It feels like Seymour from Rocky Horror Show, rather than, you end up working for the business rather than the business working for you. And that's an unhealthy place to be, at least for any length of time. I mean, obviously every company has moments like that, but you don't want to stay in that place. And talking about startups, I mean, I'm, as somebody that worked for a .com and went through that whole cycle and was told I was going to be a millionaire by the end of the year. I'm still waiting on that one, and all of that kind of stuff. I'm very cynical of anybody that brags about how much venture capital they've got or how many staff they've got. For me, all that matters is how profitable they are. Are they actually a business that can exist and function, in its own right, the Basecamp type scenario.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned, because I'm not sure if I had told you this before, but Kevin and I had used to run a web design agency here in Halifax I think we lasted 5 years. You lasted 13. So, I mean, kudos to you. 5 years was enough for us. I used to sort of daydream about being a freelancer again, which I had done for about a year. And it was like, we went through the same things. And I think we always, I think probably a lot of agency owners feel like it's them. It's just them. Like, why are all these other agencies doing well and I'm the one who's struggling with cash flow and getting paid from clients and thinking that they're the failures? But I think the more I've talked to agency owners, the more I realize it's a problem across the board for everybody.
Yeah, and I think that's really, going back to what we were talking earlier about the celebrities, the people you look up to, who think they've got it made. They really don't. I mean, if you look at the agencies that the names that you recognize, places like Adaptive Path, places like Happy Cog, places like Clear Left, Headscape, even some of the really big agencies, they have all got problems. We're very good at being that graceful swan on the surface when there's just chaos going on underneath. And, I'm yet to find an agency that I think, bloody hell, they've got it sorted. Every single one of them has got that mess underneath the surface.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm so glad to hear that the transition's been great for you and you're definitely successful, and it's not a matter of how big the company is, but just you running your own business and enjoying your family time and all that stuff. It sounds like it's going amazing for you.
Oh, I'm loving it. Yeah, absolutely loving it. And it's good because one of the things that I struggle with is I get bored very easily. I've got the attention span of a small toddler. By being just me, I can go, I've done 4, 5, 10, whatever, digital transformation projects back to back. I'm sick of that. I'm going to push a bit for some user experience work, or I'm going to write another book, or I'm going to concentrate on speaking for a while, and I can just mix it up the whole time. And I just love that. I love that variety.
That's awesome. Well, Paul, it was, I don't care if you laugh, it was an honor having you on this show. Thank you for being on it.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
No, absolute pleasure, and yeah, you know how much I love what you guys do and the stuff that you're producing, and I've got ultimate respect for anybody that manages to make a product work. We tried doing it once at Headscape, and it was a disaster. So, good on you guys.
I followed that. Just to spend a minute on that is it was get sign off, which was actually a great idea. We had that problem with presenting designs. And I think it was the kind of the post-mortem that you wrote about it when you decided to kind of, sell it off and close it down. Or I think it merged with another similar product, didn't it?
Yeah, somebody bought it out.
The post-mortem on kind of why you didn't continue it was actually very helpful for us building Proposify, which was a product spun out of an agency. And a lot of those lessons we took right to the product and could be partly responsible why we're doing well today. Okay,
well, I look forward to receiving my dividends then.
We'll talk. We'll call the lawyers.
Yeah, my lawyers will talk to your lawyers. It'd be great.
That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Paul.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
No, great to talk to you both, and thanks for having me on.
All right. Cheers.
Take care.
Well, I'm so sad to see this series come to an end. This 2-part series. Can we just have Paul on every week? Will he do that for us?
Maybe once a month. I don't think so.
I don't think so. No, it was great. We're so happy to have him on. Entertaining guy, and if you don't already listen to his podcast, you should. It's called Boagworld. You can find it on the iTunes store, and he's one thing I think we have our own chemistry, Kevin. But one thing I've always really loved about Boagworld is just the chemistry between him and Marcus. I think in last week's episode he described their relationship as a bitter old married couple, and that the more rude he is to Marcus, the more the listeners enjoy it. Which says something about the listeners, but it is funny to just hear them make fun of each other.
And I love their accents. I mean, let's face it. I mean, the British folks, they have such a sense of humor, such a dry sense of humor. My in-laws are from England, and I love it. Yeah. I could just listen to them all day.
Yeah, it's a fun show. Check it out. But thank you for listening to this show. And as always, if you know somebody or if you want to be featured as a guest on Agencies Drinking Beer, let us know. Email Kyle@proposify.biz or Kevin@proposify.biz. Rate and review us on the iTunes store, and check out next week. And actually, we're about to jump into the interview for next week's show with a cool guy. I'm gonna save it until we're done, but check out next week's show. And other than that, bye for now.
Later.